Welcome to the 12 Hike Podcast, where we talk about all the spooky things that happen outdoors. This is Zach Jenkins. Thanks for listening. On this week's Halloween episode, it's going to be pretty fun. I've got a couple of stories from Colorado, one of them about a vampire, and the other one about some little creatures that live in the mines. Be sure you stick around after the stories, because I was able to talk to Leah from LuneAseas, and they are going to be doing a live-action play about some of the mysteries and some of the spooky stories that they've heard from around Colorado. It's called In the Pines, and it's going to be at the Lemon Stags Homestead near I-25 in East Fort Collins. It's an immersive performance that's hike-based, and it's based on true stories of hauntings, murder, and supernatural from Colorado. Each story is told with live music. There's going to be theater, circus, interactive visual art, and dance. This is going to be through a haunted maze. There's locally crafted libations will be available for you to enjoy. If you don't know what libations are, probably what I would consider adult beverages. It is PG-13, so you might want to be careful about who you bring in as far as your kids are concerned. There's going to be parking, and you just go to their website, LuneAseas.org/inthepines. And LuneAseas is spelled kind of weird. LUNEASEAS. And then you can get your tickets there. It's going to be scheduled because of COVID, so they're going to space everything out. So make sure you go and get your tickets. It's going to be going on every weekend till the end of the month. And we talk about how they came up with the inspiration for the play and what they think about it. So I hope you guys enjoy. In Lafayette, Colorado, there's a grave with the remains of two Romanian-born individuals. Their names are John Trandifer and Theodore Glava. In 1918, John and Theodore died from respiratory complications. Theodore was from Austria, but John was from a part of Romania called Transylvania, and that name immediately conjures up another clear image: Dracula. That's right, John was rumored to be a vampire. Visitors to the grave have reported their batteries dying for no reason when they are near the grave and they hear voices. Dre Pendragon, a local paranormal investigator, reports having collected an EVP, upon which she claims a spectral voice can be clearly heard asking the ominous question, "Do you want to see my steak?" Those that have traveled alone to the cemetery at night have reportedly been assaulted by an unknown assailant. When police arrive, they can find no suspects in the area and only a lone set of footprints that lead back to the grave. Even the fauna around the graves is a special story. The rose bush that has grown around Theodore Glava's grave seems to be ordinary at first glance. When you get to the bottom of its origin, though, things get a bit more thorny. It is said that the other man in the grave, Glava, was not content staying and had discovered a way to daylight. Glava attempted to escape his underground tomb by growing out his fingernails. As his nails reached the surface, the result was not what he had imagined. Instead of popping up to the surface as a human, his overgrown fingernails took the form of a rosebush. Perhaps the most compelling story is that of the tree that grows from the center of John's grave. Again, there's nothing extraordinary about this particular tree. However, legend has it that the tree roots originate from a very specific place: the stake that pierces the heart of the vampire, John Traffider. It's most certainly not true that these two men are vampires. They died from influenza, and there's no evidence to suggest that they are vampires. But it's just a fun little story that's grown its own little cult culture in that little cemetery. Have you heard of the Tommyknockers in the deep dark mines of the West, which Cornish miners hear? And 'tis no laughing jest, for I'm a Cornish miner, and I'll tell you of it today, of the knock 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 of a tiny pick as we work in the rock and clay. Tommyknockers have been a legend in Colorado mining since the beginning of time. Well, since the Cornish miners brought Tommyknockers with them to Colorado in the 1860s anyway. Since the mining boom of the late 1800s, Tommyknockers have been a part of Colorado's crazy legends. Tommyknockers are the reason Telluride kicks their 4th of July off with a bang, and the reason for a brewery in Idaho Springs. Tommyknockers are small, grisly creatures that live underground. The further you go into the mine, the more likely you are to awaken a Tommyknocker. They take their fashion advice from miners by dressing the same, only in miniature versions. The Cornish believe these little men were the souls of the Jews who crucified Christ and were sent by the Romans to work as slaves in the tin mines. This belief was so strong that the Tommyknockers were allegedly never heard on Saturdays, nor at times of Jewish festivals. The nickname knocker comes from the sound these little creatures would make before a mine caved in. Tommyknockers are believed to knock on the mine's walls as a warning to the miners. Some believe the Tommyknockers caused disastrous cave-ins, but others believe that the knocks led them to riches, or were just good omens. Oddly enough, most miners didn't mind the Tommyknockers' presence. Rather than being malicious, it seemed the Tommyknockers were mischievous. They apparently loved pranks, like stealing unattended food and tools. And as time went on, the small creatures seemed to become more embraced and feared, and that is still true today, because Tommyknockers are still a presence in the Colorado mines. There have been multiple experiences of people hearing their names whispered in a mine in Idaho Springs. People have seen multiple apparitions at the Phoenix Ghost Mine, which has sparked multiple paranormal investigations, including an appearance on the show Ghost Adventures. It only makes sense that an adjacent brewery in Idaho Springs is called Tommyknocker Brewery. And, in Telluride, an explosion is set off in the mountains at 6 a.m. sharp to commemorate Telluride's history. Why 6 a.m.? Legend says that the Tommyknockers would create an explosion at 6 a.m. in the mines, and Telluride is just keeping that tradition going. So I was cruising through Facebook, and on one of the Facebook pages that I follow, it's I Love Loveland.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this weird-looking poster for something called LuneAseas.
Yeah.
And I got to reading the description, and I thought, oh boy, these people were doing exactly the same thing that I wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit of background. I'm doing it's like an outdoor themed podcast, and we just talk about anything and everything, hiking, fishing, you name it, we talk about it. For the month of October, we wanted to do something fun and Halloween themed that has to do with the outdoors. And bada bing, bada boom, you guys are doing an outdoor drama thing with hiking. So
yeah,
I was immediately like, oh, I got to talk to these people.
That's awesome. I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah, a little bit of background. How did LuneAseas come into existence?
Oh, well, we've been around for since 2013. It started out just as like a way to do our independent music, but also put visuals to it. And I'm a dancer, so it just made sense that maybe dancers wanted to put some of their choreography to local music. And we kind of wanted to be a bridge between the music world and the visual performing arts world. And then it just kind of started evolving into storytelling and improv, and more people joined the team. And then we got sick of the name 6 Degrees, and we went with the name LuneAseas because everybody is a nut job in our company.
Well, I've come to realize that artists, dancers, musicians, they're all a little eccentric. So that kind of fits the mold.
Yeah, we're a pretty eclectic group of people and personalities.
Have you always been a dancer?
I've always been primarily a musician, but stepping into this role with LuneAseas and directing dancers, I had to become a lot more proficient than what I was. So now I'm more of a dancer than I am a musician.
I know the people that tend to get into some of the artistic expression and dancing such as that to it for a long time. Like I went to high school with a girl that had danced her whole life, and she danced her way all the way to New York, and she's a Rockette now. Yeah,
Nice.
so it was
Nice.
kind of strange. I remember she was in a talent show doing her interpretive dance, and I
Uh-huh.
can only speak for myself, but I thought, come on, that's not going to. What good is that? Well, joke's on me. She's a Rockette, and I'm in my basement. So
Hey, there's nothing wrong with being in your basement.
I guess
I
not.
spent years in my basement.
Yeah.
Created lots of cool stuff in my basement.
How many people were in LuneAseas?
um, it fluctuates. So our core team that's really helping put together the maze and put together the LuneAseas piece that we're doing. We have a lighting designer, we have a stage manager. He's also a mover. Um, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's about 7 of us right now, but the whole event probably has about over 20 different performers throughout the 4 weekends that we're doing it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So how did the idea come about to do this? I guess live action story play of Colorado mysteries and myth.
Well, my partner Steve and I, we love to hike and we love to do movement outside. And we've always wanted to do like an immersive hike.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always wanted to do it at night where we could have like the cool lighting and really mess with people. And, and COVID happened. And, I guess we just had the right idea at the right time because we've been transitioning more into immersive shows and outside of the traditional theater anyway. And another part of like the unsolved mystery thing we wanted to do was like last season we did like a Charlie Chaplin silent films themed event. We did that this summer too. The year before we did like a Twilight Zone themed radio show, Orson Welles radio theater themed show. And this year I really like Robert Stack and I really like his voice.
Uh-huh.
And I like all the intros that he did before each reenactment of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
And thought, well, what if we took that? We always wanted to do a musical with like murder ballads, bluegrass murder ballads, incorporated some of these murder ballads, made it more Rocky Mountain, and really researched about the area of Colorado that we live in and the weird history that's here. And we focus on that.
So which area of Colorado, if you don't mind me asking?
It's all over Colorado. So we're just focusing on Colorado as a state.
Oh, okay.
Really. Yeah, so like this show, Unsolved Mysteries, if some people out there haven't seen it, I'm sure most people have.
Yeah.
They had like one extraterrestrial story, one ghost story, one missing person story, one murder story. And maybe they'd throw in like a weird miracle story there every once in a while.
So is that what you guys are going to do? Are you doing the same kind of thing where it's like one unsolved murder mystery, one extraterrestrial, one ghost?
Yeah.
How did you go about selecting what stories you wanted to pick? Because I've been researching some stories myself, and I find it kind of hard to narrow down what I want to talk about.
Oh, it's really hard to narrow it down. So one thing that I did was I would just come to a rehearsal with like this stack of books and this stack of stories, and I would bookmark the ones that really called to me, and I would read them, and it was like story time for my group, and I would read them, and I'm like, "Do you guys like that one?" And sometimes they'd be like, "Eh," sometimes they'd be like, "Yeah."
Cool.
And we just kind of collectively picked out the ones that called to us. So I would already have some ideas kind of narrowed down for them. So there wasn't this whole smorgasbord of things. There are some sections where it's a little bit more liberal with the stories that are going on, more of just like an overall theme or a montage of it. Oh. And then there's other sections where it's like, this is the story we decided to tell.
When you go about setting up this area? How big of a stage are you guys going to have?
It's actually a pretty big area. We were really lucky to have a friend up in Fort Collins that because we were having a really hard time finding a place to stage this. The cities didn't really want us using their land, and they didn't want any damage to the natural area, which I completely understand. So we were lucky enough to find a homestead out in East Fort Collins to do it, and we're setting it up. We're building a maze.
That really adds to the overall atmosphere, doesn't it? Because you've got this large, flat expanse of an area.
Hmm.
Obviously, you guys are going to make people walk through this maze that they have no idea where they're going. Is it like one of those no touch things where it's just going to be like jumps out and scares you, or
No,
okay,
no, we're less of a Wes Craven type of group and more of a Alfred Hitchcock or a David Lynch type group.
I like it. I don't like jump scares. I'm a big sissy.
No, we don't like jump scares either. We're not big into that. We're more into like the psychological aspect. We like letting the audience in on things while like the characters on stage may not know what's going on.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you find that gets your actors even more involved and more into their character when they have a little piece missing, or
It depends on the actor
uh,
or the dancer.
I got you.
Yeah, I think it adds to the overall comedy. Like for this particular piece we're working on, I think it adds to the overall comedy of the piece.
Okay. Do you have any stories that maybe you didn't use but you remember, or any little snippets of some of the stories you wouldn't mind sharing with me? I don't
Yeah.
want to give anything away in your production, but if there's something that you've read or heard that I haven't yet, I'd like to hear it.
Oh, well, I was really reading up about like southwestern Colorado, kind
Mhm.
of like it's called like the Bloodless Valley or Cortez, Colorado area, and the Alamosa area. And I read this one, and it was really strange. The story was really strange. This horse, I can't remember the names of the people, but this horse on their ranch, they found his remains, but they found this horse's remains were so perfectly surgically removed, and this was back in the 50s or the 60s, that there was no way anybody had that technology to remove the horse's remains the way they did.
Ooh,
And for nobody could figure out what happened to this horse, and there was actually like a lot of accounts of cattle in that same area, like the same mutilations happening to these cattle in this area, and it was very strange.
was it just one specific ranch, or was it like a whole area of the state?
There was lots of accounts from that whole area of the state. Yeah, they would just find like this kind of gruesome, so sorry, but like they would just find like, say like a laser line took off my head and all that was left of my skull.
Really?
They would find stuff like that with the cattle and the livestock in that area happening. And nobody could figure out how that was happening because it wasn't like a predator that was ripping apart these livestocks.
Are they still looking into it, or is that kind of like a cold case thing? It's just a mystery that
Yeah, it's just kind of a cold case that people have just kind of accepted. They don't know what was going on.
aliens.
Aliens. That's all people can come up with. And yeah, I was really interested in the Bloodless Valley region. It's right up by Cortez, Colorado, in the San Juan Mountains. It's where all the natives, the tribes in that area, they would lay down their arms, and that was a peaceful area where all the tribes, they wouldn't like gather, but they would all use that area for like a spiritual or energy experience in that same area, around the same area where the cattle was found.
That's kind of neat.
Interesting. Yeah.
For that, I know everything I've been finding is more. There's a place called the Cannibal Plateau.
Mm.
His name Packer, something Packer, Alfred Packer. Him and a bunch of guys set off toward Colorado, and he was the only guy that made it back.
Oh, I read about that guy.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. That was one of my favorite ones I've read so far.
And no one could figure out why he was so well fed, right?
Yep, and why he had all their stuff. Yeah, kind of creepy. So for your production, how long is it going to be going on? Is it for the whole month?
Yeah, so we're doing it Friday and Saturday on the 17th, 18th, the 24th, and the 25th.
Okay. And where can people get tickets?
They can go to www.LuneAseas.org/inthepines. That's what we call it. And you can get tickets right off our website. And then so people, when they get their tickets, it's more like they're scheduling an event because we're letting groups up to 12 go through the maze at a time.
Okay.
So there's about 8 different time slots per evening people can reserve their tickets for.
And the spelling on LuneAseas is a little different.
Yeah, so it's like loon, like the bird, Lune, with an A, and then seas, Seas, like the ocean.
You guys had to make it harder, didn't you?
We did, but it worked out quite well with all of our tagging and social media handles.
Oh yeah, that's a unique character to have.
Yeah, like LuneAseas, and we call them lunatics.
Oh, like TICKS?
Yeah, because they're lunatics.
Do you guys have any other performances scheduled for the year?
I think this is going to be our last one for a while.
Oh, yeah?
We'll see what happens. We'll see how well the maze goes and how much people like it.
Well, I'm half tempted to go check it out myself.
You should. The lady that runs the homestead, she makes the most amazing wine and apple cider and spiked cocoa, and she's doing drinks for us too that night.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Only problem is I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I don't think they'll appreciate walking through a maze.
But they're cocoa.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, I can give them some spiced cocoa. They'll be fine.
Uh-huh.
That was all. I just had to figure out what you guys were doing. That sounded really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. And we do have a different musician that's doing like the old folk murder ballads each night too.
Oh, so that'll be kind of to go along with the production or separate from the production?
Yeah, the whole production is kind of going to be kind of like a rusty backwoods kind of creepy feel.
Man, it's going to be awesome. Are you guys going to video it and release the production that way, or?
Yeah, we are. We are, because we're not doing any refunds on tickets. So if something crazy or catastrophic happens on one of our nights, we'll be like, here's the video.
All right. Well, I won't take up much more of your time. I just wanted to see what it was all about. It was interesting.
Yeah, thanks for interviewing us. That's awesome.
No
I'm
problem.
so glad you saw it. Bring your kids. Our kids are going to be there. It's fun.
I'll see what I can do. They're lunatics.
I know how that goes.
Well, Leah, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, you too. So good to meet you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
First, I'd like to thank Leah for spending some time to talk to me about LuneAseas and their outdoor play that they're going to be putting on. Be sure to go to their website, LuneAseas.org, to get your tickets. It's going to be a great time, and I know everyone would really enjoy the show. Also, I hope you enjoyed my couple little stories today. They weren't very long, but I liked them, and I thought they were really good. If you'd like to follow 12 Hike, find us on Facebook at 12 Hike. We're also on Instagram, 12 Hike Challenge, and we have a YouTube channel, 12 Hike. We're still doing our fundraiser, so if you like what you hear, if you'd like to hear us put out more stuff, maybe consider donating. Give us $1. Every little bit helps. And also, what helps us more than anything is sharing our page, share our Facebook page, sharing our podcast, and getting the word out to get more people to listen to us. Thanks, and have a good day.